You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Ben Keech, and I am so glad to be here. I had a goal to get 10 episodes, and this is episode number 10. And the truth of it is, I'm not stopping at 10. I've loved all the interaction I've had with y'all. Kind of coming up with the idea of what's wrong with has opened up so many ideas. I have conversations with my employees at work, with friends, with family, former students from Shawnee Mission North. What do you think about this idea, Mr. Keech? What do you think about this? And I'm like, oh my goodness, it just doesn't stop. And it's an endless amount of ideas and things that I would love to talk to you all about. And let me kind of take a minute before I get into our topic today and say this. I'm not really that interested in having, my podcast full of commercials, although I know that happens at some point because that's how you monetize the money that you spend for this. What I want to do is I want to talk to you guys. Why am I doing all of this? I just kind of want to start off now that we're 10 episodes in. What am I doing all of this for? And for me, the answer is literally super simple. I want to find a way, in my own way, to give a perspective to people about ways that life can be lived better, more fuller, give you things that you can kind of contemplate yourself as like, oh, I relate to that. I get that. That makes sense to me, whether it's something about parenting, relationships, whatever. And so I say all of that to say, I am spreading the news about this podcast word of mouth, just simply talking to people I know, sometimes talking to people I don't know, but letting them know about the podcast and just basically putting myself out there old school wise. And actually it's pretty good for me. Sometimes I'm really content being in my little bubble. And so starting this podcast has pushed me outside to meet people I normally wouldn't have met, to say hi to people I normally wouldn't have said hi. And again, simply because I think there's something going on here with what I'm doing with you guys that is beneficial. I'm asking you have kids, you have grandkids, friends, a wife, a husband, whatever. Keep helping me spread this podcast organically. Share the link. Do whatever you can if you feel compelled to do something like that. And I can't even say the word compelled without thinking of a Vampire Diaries joke and watching that with my kids, but that's a whole other story. And only if you've seen that show do you know what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to kind of hop, skip, and jump over that one. And let's use that as a segue to get into our topic today. Episode 10, what's wrong with satisfaction? Wrong? Satisfaction in the same sentence doesn't really make sense. We all want to be satisfied in whatever that it would be in life. So why would there be something wrong with that? And I'll tell you kind of the motivation for this episode. I was talking with my son, William, and we were talking about the word satisfied. And he's like, and William is always going to tell you what he thinks. And it's going to be very, very concrete. He doesn't mix words well, which is good. And all three of my kids are different, and that's his style. And we're talking about the word satisfied, and he's like, I hate that word, satisfied. I'm like, why would you hate that word? It seems like such a pleasant, happy word. Why would anybody hate the word satisfied? And he gave me an explanation that was for him personally, and I've seen him live his life in this way, whether it was motivation with basketball, not so much on the school side, but motivation on basketball, and definitely motivation with his career that he's embarking on now as a 19-year-old. And satisfied means a sort of complacency and a contentment that is actually unhealthy, that doesn't push him towards his goals of what he wants to accomplish. And he gave me a great perspective on that. And I thought, you know what? Well, I'm going to do a podcast episode on that. You really opened my eyes to something here, and I'm going to see if I can do what you're saying justice, and then, add my own little spin on this, and we'll see how it all turns out. So that's the little backdrop of today. What's wrong with satisfaction? Let's kind of start by defining it. Satisfaction, to be satisfied. And what that means is when we reach a place in something that we're doing where whatever the result of that is, we're good with. So for instance, we can think about it this way. Some people are satisfied with the person they're dating. I'm not for sure if that's really the right romantic terminology for that. And the way I see it is the family and friends that are around that, you should not be satisfied with that individual. You are going down the wrong path. But we're satisfied, maybe lulled into a place of contentment when we should not be content. We can feel satisfied after eating a great meal. That's fine. Whatever. That can be used in that way, and it makes no difference. I'm going to kind of focus on 3 areas, though, with that word, and kind of break some stuff down of what's wrong with satisfaction. I'm going to look at parenting. I'm going to look at relationships, and I'm going to look at work. And as I do this, I'm going to try to make a distinction between why we should not be satisfied and when we should be satisfied. And so that's the direction that we're going today. Let's first look at parenting. Are you satisfied with the type of parent you are? Now, a lot of parents would say, I could always do better. Great. So some parents are going to sit in that place and I could always do better. I do my best. I try hard. Oh my goodness, that just really bores me and is nails down a chalkboard, because that's such a cop-out attitude. They say, oh my gosh, you're so harsh. Well, let me explain. If I were to say to you, are you satisfied with the type of parent you are? A normal person's going to say, I like these things. I know I need to improve on these things. So will you ever be satisfied? Well, I don't want to beat myself up about it the rest of my life. And this is the dilemma that we have internally with that word. What I'm wanting, the distinction that I'm wanting to kind of show and I guess make in this is looking at the past, the present, and the future, and breaking down the word satisfaction with my parenting. So when I evaluate myself in the present, what am I doing right? How am I connecting with my children? What am I not seeing that I need to be seeing? Am I not relating or asking the right questions of them? Are we not having conversations? Am I simply lost in my own world and very self-consumed with myself? What do I give of myself to them? And so I look at that and say, I'm not, can we ever really fully arrive in that place? I would just say no, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you have to beat yourself up about it, but it's something that we are constantly evaluating. And if we're doing that in our present relationships with our children, then we are going to have a greater chance to stay tuned in to our behaviors, to their behaviors, and just keep that connection solid. That's so important in parenting with our children, being in tune. It's like we ask our kids a question, how are you doing today? How was your day today? And they give us the very typical child answer, good, fine, whatever. And that's what they say. But delving into that, breaking it down, and not being satisfied with where we are in our present. The future. What do I want that to look like? What do I want my relationship with my adult children to look like? What am I doing now to keep things strong so that when they are adults, they're like, I'm done with dad. I'm done with mom. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want to be cut off, and kids will cut off parents for good reasons or for bad reasons. But sometimes it was just us missing the boat somewhere along the way. And so my goal for looking at, am I satisfied with my relationship with my kids and what that looks like in the future, is I'm going to work my tail off in the present so that adult parents and adult children can have a wonderful adult life together, which is much different, as we know, from the kid-adult relationship. But I think the past is a little bit different. We can all look back at our past and parenting things, decisions we've made, and oh my gosh, we can be such tough critics. Or we can be the opposite and just very dismissive. I did my best. I tried. And that just seems so blah. And it definitely will seem that way to your kids as well. But it's also healthy to say to our kids, these are the things I thought about. This is where my mind was at. I know I kind of fell short in this area. The funny thing, what kids do is when you as a parent own some of that stuff and have those conversations with your kids, so forgiving. They're ready to it's fine, Dad. It's like they don't want the brunt of your inner turmoil always with them. They want to view you and their childhood in kind of a glossy, kind way, because that's all they have. And they're going to find the best parts of that. Even if there's not many of them, they're going to find that. So I think we can be satisfied with our past, knowing that while we're in our present and looking towards our future, that we weren't satisfied, that we were pushing forward in that way. And I think that's an important distinction on the parenting side. Let's move into our relationships. Boy, we get in relationships all the time that, maybe you're just trying to find a way to be satisfied enough. I mean, are we accepting things that we shouldn't accept? Are we operating on our own true self in the way that we really should? And so I still kind of look at it in this way. So let's take a healthy relationship, a husband, a wife, whatever. In a healthy relationship, I don't want to be satisfied with whatever's going on. You say, well, wait a second. What is that? Or is this going to be some judgmental, critical? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's a way, if I love someone, there's a way that I need to express that, show that, how I need to show up in certain situations. And as human beings, we're not going to meet the mark every time. We're not going to ever love someone perfectly. And because of that, I don't want to fall into any sort of complacency with how I love. I want to be evaluating how I meet the people that I care about and the people that I love, and own when I fall short, but I'm not going to be satisfied with whatever that is, because I think there's always room for growth. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. We're never a 10 out of 10 on anything. We're always somewhere less than. And I'll never get to 10 out of 10. I'll never be 10 out of 10. But I always want to be pushing for that number. And that's why I won't be satisfied with just whatever I am. And when I look at my future self, like if I'm in a relationship with somebody and we're talking about our goals and our dreams and what this looks like, that can be very exciting, exhilarating, fun, all the good things, right? But I know to get there, I have to continue to evaluate my own behaviors where I become complacent. Hear this, how I take someone for granted, because we know over time, every single person we love, we can take for granted. And so that can affect those future things. If I fall into just some sort of just general benign expectations of what I have for this person, I may not reach those future things. I'm not going to be satisfied until I get there. And the only way that I can get there is to continue to challenge myself. Now, again, when we go to satisfaction in the past, I believe it's different. I believe we look at our behaviors in the past, and again, we just get that honest analysis of what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Where did I fall short here? What can I learn from this? What's a better version of Ben that didn't exist in 2022? How am I growing in a way that gets me where I would like to be in all my relationships with anybody that knows me, and really having my head screwed on straight to where the way and manner in which I'm operating is true to whatever the best version of myself is. And that's what I'm looking at with this word. What's wrong with satisfaction? We are satisfied way too easily, way too often. Quit being so satisfied. Take it with sports. Obviously, you guys know I've done a lot of coaching. It's funny where you'll get, kids who they have these goals and these dreams, they want to achieve this. You're literally doing nothing. You think showing up to a practice is going to be good enough? Hey, it's fine if it's for fun. But if this is your goal and this is where you want to be, why are you so satisfied with literally doing nothing? Don't have those goals then. Your goals don't match up with your actions. You're way too satisfied with you being a very average athlete, putting forth average effort. It's not enough. And so if that's what your goal is, if that's what you want to achieve, and of course we can take that from sports to academics to anything that's really important to us. If something's important to you, don't be so quick to be satisfied. And that's what's wrong with satisfaction. Look at work. Work is interesting because I used to say this to kids when they were tardy to my class. I'd have, some kids were always late, right? First class of the day, showing up 5-10 minutes late. And I'm like, oh man, Mr. Keech, my alarm didn't go off, or my ride was late, and all these things. I would say the same thing every time. Super simple. If you knew that you were going to receive $100 bill from me, and all you had to do, if school started at 7:40, all you had to do is get here at 7:39 to collect your $100 bill before the bell rang, would you have been on time today and every day this year? The answer is yes. If you had to walk, if you had to wake up earlier, if you had to go to bed later, if you chose different things the night before, you'll take $100 bill every day for showing up to school, and all you have to do is be on time. So quit making excuses. It means nothing to me. Your excuses are dumb because they're not actually real. You're just not doing what you need to do. And so when I think of what's wrong with satisfaction as far as work, and I'm kind of going work, school in this example, is I'm saying there's people who take pride in what they do. This is kind of an old school thing. The new school mentality with some people is, if I feel like I'm getting enough from it, if it meets this criteria and that criteria, then maybe I'll give forth all that effort. Maybe. And this is where we're twisted upside down. The idea that there's an expectation of you, show up on time, do your job with pride. Your name is connected to what you're doing. Do you even care about that? Do you even care that people look at you as this sloppy, pathetic, half-hearted, not putting forth effort, just him? It's like making kids, here's an easy example, making kids run lines in a basketball practice. Free throw back, half court back, free throw back. And the kids that never touched the line, they're going to cut corners in other areas of life. The kid that hits the line every time, they take pride. This was my instruction, and I'm going to do what I was supposed to do. And I'm going to be consistent about it. And guess what? Those kids and that mindset and that behavior, they're going to, it doesn't matter if they make $10 an hour. It doesn't matter if they become a millionaire. They take pride in doing things the right way. Their satisfaction is not contingent upon how much money they make. They want to do a good job because it represents them. In the workplace, when it comes to satisfaction, my connection that I'm trying to make with you guys is that people are simply sometimes satisfied with just showing up to work, doing a halfway job, maybe even the fact that they have a job. And when you approach your work with this mentality of I'm going to get better. I am going to produce. I'm going to give what I have. It doesn't matter if I like my boss. It doesn't matter if I am having a good day or a bad day. It doesn't matter what's going on in my home life. When I put my name to something, it means something. It matters. And I want that always to stand out. And that can be with my academics. That's in our relationships. That's with our children. That's with our parents. I am not going to be satisfied easily. I'm not going to. Now, the little bit of a flip side here is we also know that we can sometimes just, that inner critic can weigh us down, and we can actually sometimes mentally, if we can't find places to be satisfied, that can, for some of us, be a mental log jam of our life and can really also set us back. And that's why my emphasis on satisfaction was we need to be able to look at our past and find peace with how we're moving forward. Okay, let's switch gears again and let's talk about our song today, and let's talk about the parenting advice. It seemed like just with that, there's a lot of parenting advice. So I'm going to go with a song first. So there's a band that I've always loved, even back in my early 20s. It's called Toad the Wet Sprocket. Some of you may have heard of them and some of you may not have. And the song that I've always been obsessed with is I Will Not Take These Things for Granted. It's the name of the song. And the song talks about the beauty of life and the simplicity of things in life and not letting that, not missing that. And you might say, well, so why does that song connect with satisfaction? And here's the reason why. When we don't take our children for granted, when we don't take the people that we love for granted, we then have this inner drive of wanting to be the best that we can be for them, to mean something to them that is special, that will never be forgotten. When we take things for granted, it's much easier for us to be satisfied with average efforts, with the status quo. If I'm not satisfied with the way I love and care for people, people I know, people I don't know, the path that I have in my life, that I'm not going to also take those things for granted because I want to impact those people and those things. And I love the song. I hope you get a chance to listen to it. It's great. The parenting advice. So there's labels that we kind of attach sometimes to younger generations, and sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. The parenting advice when it comes to how does this message that we're talking about today, how do we relate that to our kids? This is why I want your 12-year-olds listening to my podcast. This is why I want 80-year-olds to listen to my podcast, because there's so many ways. I'm really hoping that I find a way to, connect with all age groups. And on the kid part, it's this. Children, don't be satisfied with the amount of gratitude you show the people in your life that are literally doing everything they know how to do to care and love for you. Take some 15-year-old boy. Do you realize the steps what your mom's doing? Do you realize the things that she's trying to do to the best of her ability to raise you, to care for you? However much you think you're showing gratitude, you're not most likely showing enough gratitude. Now that we say, well, that's normal. Kids, they're self-consumed. Why? Why do they have to be so? They don't have to be that way. It's our job as adults to teach them and show them. I don't care if you're 10, 15, I don't care who you are, how old you are, whatever. You have the capacity to be grateful and thankful for what people are doing for you. And it's a cop-out to say that you as a teenager just can't do it. No, you're just too selfish. You just haven't, you're too caught up in yourself, and that does not have to be the case. Kids can give back. Kids can see the big picture. It's up to us adults to not sell them out, to not shortchange whatever is going on and say, you need to. What if it's simply a 15-year-old who went out to eat with his family and they pay the bill and they're getting up to go? What if it was the 15-year-old daughter at the table that said something to the server like, thank you so much for taking care of us today. You did a great job. Why could she not do that? Mom's not doing it. Dad's not doing it. Maybe they are doing it. In other words, let's increase our expectations for having our children be good adults, and it can start now. It doesn't have to start later in life, because honestly, you never know, if it may never happen. And we all know that could be the case as well. That's today. That's the episode. I need to take a deep breath after that one. That was hopefully I feel pretty good about that. I hope you guys liked it. I get in my little kind of intense modes, but this is stuff matters to me. I'm very passionate about it. And I hope you guys, share this, subscribe, do all those, things that we're supposed to do on our YouTube stuff, and follow me on TikTok, share this with your friends. I still feel weird saying TikTok at 50. I feel like I should be under 30 when I say that word, but I guess it's just like a modern thing and I'm learning. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. And can't wait till episode 11, because I am passing all of I'm not satisfied with the expectations I have for myself. We're just going to keep on trucking. So thanks a lot, folks. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.